So I would like to ask the three presenters to come up front, and then let's do it a bit like a panel Q&A. So we started late, so I guess we have 10 minutes for this now. Let me collect a few questions and comments, and then I can give it back to the panel. You can have a seat. Okay, so thanks. So, questions? Bas.
Yeah, thanks. Those were three really interesting, great talks and different perspectives on how we do this. And I agree that we need to start thinking for ourselves as a research community. Really great to note on which you and Nico that we need to structure this so that we can actually think about this sort of conceptually and structurally in a very organized manner. Now, what Kevin already raised at the end of his talk is basically the question of how do you do this, right? How do you make sure that digitalization is leading to a benefit for society rather than actually a caveat, so that we're not handed a lemon. Basically, you think you're ordering something nice and you get only something that you don't like. But this is not only related to energy and sustainability, right? Everything around digitalization, regarding privacy, the whole economy, the whole society is struggling with this thing where every time we see something new out of this digital innovation coming up, and we say, oh, that is nice, and we're going to use it. And then after a while, we realize, oh, maybe it's not what we thought about it beforehand, and it leads to all these adverse effects. We risk having the same thing around energy. We think this is great, and we're going to do it, and then in 10 years from now, we find out that it led to all these new demands that we overlooked. And I'm wondering, K1 gave a few hints on how we can make this happen, but I think we need to think even broader beyond how we sort of contain a little bit these innovations to make sure that they lead to benefits of society and avoid the adverse impact sort of early on.
So let me collect a few before I give it back. I have Kejun.
Sorry. It's I think quite similar. It's two questions. First is in general, based on your presentation, I have the feeling that the IT or something like can reduce energy use. Yes, this one confirm from you. And second one, what's the roadmap? If we want the model we want to use a result, for example, shared car, do you have some idea by 2030, 2040, or 2050, how much of what's the share for such kind of IT can contribute to different sectors?
Okay, thank you very much for the all interesting the presentations. I have one question. How are you going to model the behavior change because of the digitalization? I think this is a big challenge. I'm asking this question because when I did the decomposition analysis in Japan, emissions inventory in Japan, especially in the residential and commercial sector, after we see the digitalization, then we increase the energy demand, and then we increase the emissions in the historically. So the important point is that how we can change our behavior because of the digitalization in the future. I think it's, this is my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, over to you.
So these are really important and tough questions, right? So the first thing that we tried with LED was to see, does it matter? Is it a first order or is it a second order question? And if you do it right, it can lead to quite significant changes and improvements, right? And I think to start perhaps with the last question in terms of consumer preferences and how we can change consumer preferences. I think consumers always choose what is most convenient, what is most flexible, and what brings the biggest utility. to the extent. Now the question is, what value system underlies those utilities, right? That's why I brought this example with the SUV, which is a terrible mean to commute in a city. It's simply it's the least convenient one. It's also environmentally not right. You are stuck in congestion, but still it's the preferred mode of some people. And the reason for that is that the ownership of the SUV itself has a value as well, right? So it's about creation of those values and sharing them, so that the service itself is that what you really is, so that the SUV should be embarrassing if it's in front of your house, right? If it's stigmatized and embarrassing, then you would probably focus more on the utility of the service that transportation actually brings. So I think and how to steer this is a real complex issue. Actually, digitalization can, as we know, can help you with even voting. So perhaps it can help you also with perception of cars. But I didn't say that. Yeah. So if you record this, please cut it out. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. That's great. That's great. That's great. And I think to answer Bas's question, and I don't have an answer for this, Bas. I tried to give a few. I tried to think about it yesterday in the evening, and because this goes beyond LED, right? So in LED, we wanted to show if you manage to do it, if you focus on the services themselves, how much can you reduce energy demand? And I would say this is amazing how much, right? But how to do it? I think that depends on a host of different. I noted a few. I have to say, perhaps we ask Elena when she is finished with her ERC, and she will tell us then how to do this.
Yeah. So maybe there is a political aspect to control this digitalization. I mean, to also try to understand if you can control the development of these technologies, because now who is developing the technologies? The market, it's the companies. So this is them that create the needs to the people. So and I would say it doesn't go towards decarbonization. But if at the same time in terms of politically the countries they want to go for decarbonization, they have to do something also in this sector. So there is something political bearing to also ensure also have political narratives. So yeah, also about modeling, that's maybe it's the same problem with behavior as we've seen in the last effort we did in this community about modeling behavior. Is very difficult. So the narratives, creating narratives and see what is happening is what is the best. So this is what we will do in this project.
Yeah, I mean, how to improve the models in order to get better insights. I think, I mean, energy demand modeling has been rather coarse and aggregate, usually because there's so many activities, and the energy supply side is much easier to model because you have a limited number of alternatives, basically. But on the energy demand side, it is related to so many activities that it is difficult to get a more detailed handling on it. There is improvements, so splitting out building sector and building demand, the transportation sector with modal split and all these kind of things. But basically in our models, we on the demand side, we usually have a prescribed scenario, but the prognostic abilities of our models here are relatively limited. It is more an assumption than an outcome, what our baseline trajectory is. And I try to refer to the flexibilities that we may have by switching from high energy to low energy demand and asking the question, okay, what are the relevant factors? As Kewan already mentioned in his presentation, there's many enabling factors at the micro level that are very difficult to capture. So there we need collaboration with more micro-oriented people that may help us to understand what is going on there and what it means for more aggregate variables. So on the socio-technical level, we may have collaboration with experts, and then feeding this back into our larger models where we may also see structural change issues in how the economy as a whole behaves. What is then coming out for time frame 2030, 2040 in policy recommendations, I would be happy to have an answer to this now, but we can work on that to make the answers be evident later.
Great, thanks a lot. That was an exciting session. So let's give a hand to the speakers again.